Hey, good morning, everyone. Is it morning still? Afternoon. Today we'll be talking about the future of zk. They got the one guy from a fraud-proof protocol, currently fraud-proof, to come host the future of zk. So hi, everyone. Maybe first we can do some intros. So my name is Daniel Lumi. I'm the senior product manager of core protocol for Arbitrum at Off-Chain Labs, legal. How about you?
I'm John. I'm the CEO of Veridise. We perform security services, but in particular, we specialize on zk, and we've been building a lot of tools in order to automatically identify bugs in zk circuits.
Hi, my name is Ming Guo. I'm the co-founder and chief scientist at zkM, where we build a zkVM called zkMIPS, and also we're part of the ecosystem that builds vertical zk applications, including Goat Network and LastAI. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shubham, the head of ecosystem at Manta. I also take care on the foundation side, which is Manta Ray Labs.
Hi, everybody. My name is Vanishree. I'm founder of Fermah.
Okay, so starting kind of broadly first, like how do you assess the current adoption of zk in the industry? And is this sort of where we expect it to be, or is this way beyond where we expect it to be? How do we get to mass market with this?
I should go first? Okay, sure. So the best use case, like recently, which I saw was on the BTC side, which I didn't expect. So if you guys know about Citria, so I recently saw they are using like zkProofs and zk technology on BTC side. And the reason and the simple goal behind that is like BTC is secured network, but BTC is really slow. But if we compute like off-chain with the help of zk, so that will increase the speed on the BTC side as well. So we don't have to bridge the liquidity from BTC ecosystem to EVM or SVM ecosystem. It can still be on the BTC side, and that's how like we can push more adoption across the ecosystem. So this was the one use case which I've seen, which I didn't expect as well.
Okay, I'll be next. I think I'm kind of being excited for 2025 because finally zk is ready. Like for example, it's unimaginable to think a couple of years ago that we can finally reach the point to do real-time proving, and 12 seconds a block for Ethereum. That's becoming reality this year. But on the other hand, is zk rollup and all this is kind of late to the game. So I think the hope lies in that we explore new use cases in market utilization. For example, like Citria for go beyond Ethereum. We also have Goat Network to do BTC yielding, and that's relied on the underlying zkVM technology. So yeah, I'm both excited and looking forward to the future.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree that I think 2025 is going to be an exciting year for zk. I mean, as a security company, obviously we get a lot of people coming to us with projects, but we've been auditing zk.
Lots of business in 2025.
Yeah, I think so, because we've been auditing zk circuits since around 2022, and so lately we've been seeing this larger influx, which has to do with all of the zkVMs we've seen, because they just make it so much easier for someone to integrate with zk and build interesting applications without having to build everything themselves. So if you look at the developer experience for something like I'm sure zkMIPS, but the zkVM that I'm most familiar with right now is RISC-0. It's got a very familiar developer experience. You just say, I want to use this crate. You don't have to do anything special. And then all of a sudden you can build really interesting, complex, projects without needing to go through and build everything yourself. So you can use REVM and stuff like that in order to generate proofs about the blockchain and do some really interesting things there. Whereas previously people built custom zk circuits to do stuff like that. However, in addition to zkVMs, coming and making the developer experience easier, we've also seen more and more expressive zk languages like Noir, where the developer experience is very similar to, kind of a typical Rust-based developer experience. And so it just seems like the languages are getting better for developers. and the developer experience is getting better, and we're just seeing so many more applications and I don't know, fun use cases of zk so far, even in just the first 2 months of 2025.
So maybe on the generalized zkVM side, so it does make development a lot easier. I think to some degree, there's kind of consensus that zkVMs will be the future of the vast majority of zk applications. So first of all, say if I'm wrong, and then second of all, like, what are some applications where custom circuits would make more sense to do, like that it'd be that much of a difference that you wouldn't mind the developer experience?
I can take this. I started this whole Twitter debate a while ago. zkVMs versus custom circuits, and I think there is no taking away the fact that zkVMs have reduced the barrier to entry for developers to embrace zk. Custom circuits, again, there is no doubt that you can squeeze out efficiency because it's custom. So it just is, you have to turn the world upside down to have an argument that something that is more generic is more efficient than something that is more custom. It never is the case. Especially if you put as much effort on custom circuits as you put effort on zkVMs, and you push the frontier there as much as you try to push the frontier in zkVM. And I think there's place for both. I think zkVMs are a blessing for our space, and custom circuits will still have a place for projects that'll grow to the level of maturity where you can't work with the overhead of generalization, and you care about competition, you care about bringing down cost, you care about bringing down time. And a typical comeback when I say this is proving will become fraction of a cent, but I think it is. I think we should not. I think none of us is in a position to say how much money is big or how much money is small. So to each of us, money has different scale, right? For me, $10 can be big. For somebody, $10 can be small. So I think there's always room in the world where you can squeeze out more efficiency, because you can significantly change somebody's life. Somebody in some country, their lives will change. So I really don't see room for an argument where zkVMs can ever reach generalization, can ever reach a point where you don't have room for further efficiency.
So that's kind of interesting, actually. Like the point of, if you like, maybe you start with a generalized zkVM, right? And if you get big enough, then you'd actually make like custom circuits for your application. So do you think that like the current rollups that are going towards the zkVM path, like zk-sync or Polygon or Optimism and Arbitrum, that there'll be like sort of a decoupling again down in the future where they get rid of the general zkVMs and build something more optimized again?
I think so think about zk-sync or Polygon or Scroll. They are platforms. They are as much platforms as zkVMs are. zkVM, there are tools, right? They are helping people to build they are helping people to build something on top of them, right? Now imagine somebody like Abstract Chain, right? They are part of this elastic network. They have this specific thing that they are proving. Now it is not the job of Elastic Network or Matter Labs or zk-sync to build custom circuits. It's the job of applications to look past the generic framework, because they have taken advantage of the generic platform and they have gone big. Now they have gone big. They care about efficiency, and it is for them that it might make sense at some point in time to add efficiency. And I'm not saying that zkVMs can completely be taken away. I think zkVMs are doing a good job in understanding that this could be the trend in the future, and some zkVMs are allowing people to change their zkVMs in an easy manner, and maybe there are parts that can be added that can be taken away. You add efficiency.
I find that like fascinating, because you said that zkVMs can get to scale, and this is we've talked about this before, right? So it's your. There's not that many people that are on that side that custom circuits are sort of the end game, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like I find it interesting of like how much cost savings is enough cost savings to sort of motivate someone to take a risk of building custom circuits, and maybe this is something that like I'm curious from an auditing point of view. Like, how much risk is it? Like, how much do you think, like Apple might actually write custom circuits, right? That totally makes sense. But how big is that scale to make it worth the risk?
Sure. I mean, I agree that I think that there's a lot of nuance here, because I don't think that, I completely agree that someone might be incentivized to switch away from a zkVM. So basically, the way that I commonly think about it is the zk circuit is kind of this low-level primitive that you have, right? If you want to equate it to something else in computer science, it's basically your assembly language. And it's not like people currently don't write assembly, right? They write it because they need better performance, because they want to do better optimization and stuff like that. So it seems very likely that people will do that. And so there's kind of two spaces where they could do that. They could either create better accelerators inside of a zkVM, where if there's something that they have that's particularly slow, they can make that fast, and then in that case maybe they can write a smaller chunk of their application as a zk circuit. At the same time, though, if their entire application is something that's expensive, like Ketchek, for example, we need accelerators for because it's too expensive. If you have something that is equivalent to the complexity of Ketchek, then why are you incentivized to add an accelerator to a zkVM versus building a custom circuit? However, like I said, that's just kind of why someone still might use custom circuits, but they are more difficult to write. So we did a study last year that found zk circuits were about twice as likely to contain critical bugs. This is largely because it's very easy to introduce under-constrained circuits into your application, but at the same time, we have Veridise and other companies are creating better tools to identify these bugs, and there are more expressive languages to make those types of things more difficult. So hopefully in the future, it will also become easier to write zk circuits in addition to it being easy to write a zkVM application.
So zk stands for zero knowledge, right? Rollups don't really use the zero knowledge property of zk's. They're really just like validity proofs, right? When do we get zero knowledge back? Like, how much do you think we're gonna sort of? The thing is, if we're building public blockchains, we're basically building a dystopia. Anything we complain about advertising is going to get way worse. Everyone's going to be able to track your financial history. So, when do you see zero knowledge coming back in? How do you think that'll look from a front-end point of view, from a user point of view, from a wallet point of view? When do we get zk back?
That's a very great question. I think there are projects that are making use of zk. Think of World Chain. Think of Aptos. Think of zk email. Aztec. Very importantly, and I think they're right. zk is there. To your question, sorry, very quick response. To your question on how that can have an effect on user experience, and if you look at all the things that we are all building and auditing, and we are trying to make it easy for people to embrace through zkVMs, through zk circuits, through proof markets. There is also a need to make it easy for. There's also a need to make user experience nice when zk part of zero knowledge proofs is important, and for users. So there needs to be this active line of product development and research, and a huge push that needs to happen. Client-side proving is one way, but that's not the only way. There are other ways. One of the ways we are working on, I'll explain it another time. But yeah,
I think it's for ZK to be mainstream, we need to do both push up and push down. Like for example, for developer and user experience, we need to push ZK way down. Like they don't even need to learn. Like you just write program like JavaScript, right? And you don't really need to learn like compilers and everything like that. Up meaning that because the powerful ZK paradigm, it's need to sort of, for example, you want to use a ZK technology to replace like ID, right? Then you need to sort of educate and promote the whole way of thinking, and so legislation can be passed to trust this. It's a new paradigm of thinking, right? And not just technology. So, and that needs some education about of how this line of kind of raising about facts kind of work, and then need to be kind of go mainstream, right? Why I can't prove something without show something, right? So yeah, so that's what I think for ZK to kind of get more prevalent in our daily lives.
I can just take small examples. You guys mentioned about Aztec. So even Aztec and Polygon Maiden, if you remember, so these two were the privacy chain. Even Manta was that time privacy. So the problem in 2021, recently, like 2 weeks back, 3 weeks back, Tornado Cash was trending. The reason, like, he came just out from the jail. So privacy was important that time, but we didn't have resources to secure it in a perfect manner. So the fully privacy thing is also wrong. So that was the reason, like, all these chains like Aztec, Polygon Maiden initially started with the privacy focused chain, but then they started using ZK, which can be reduced at certain points. So for example, if I want to verify for a RWA project where the user is coming from, so I can easily use ZK verifiables where I can use it for identifying which nation he is resident and without disclosing the information. So that's a good reason and a good adoption sign as well, because to be honest, I think so on the stage everyone don't want to share their addresses to see like who has how much balance, right? So it's better to have the privacy but in a perfect manner. So I think so ZK was the best, like the product market fit for like privacy, including ZK was the best thing for me.
This is one of those interesting pieces of, like, personally, I'm a privacy maxi, right? The question though is, like, with Validium rollups, basically you can withhold data for, like, for example, you can launch a chain on ZK Sync, withhold the data, and you can get sort of enterprise level privacy where only the sequencer sees all the data, versus like, and that works with today's world with the laws we already have with selective disclosure. If the company gets a subpoena, they can disclose the data. How much of adoption issue, like a law issue, because we need to convince regulators that this sort of encryption is not just, that's what they call it in Senate. This sort of encryption is legal and is not just going to be used by criminals. Like, do you see us being able to move towards like an Aztec style model where, like, and actually convincing companies to use like a true privacy with viewing keys and maybe like proof of membership or exclusion of membership to limit, like, or travel rule to make it conform into existing laws?
So I think so, like the recent announcement of ZK Sync, remember, with Deutsche Bank for the Elastic chain. So
that was one of my projects.
Yeah, I know. So if you remember that, so the basically Hyperledger strategy similar. Like you want to focus a private chain, but it should be a privately. The data should be only disclosed with the like internal team and stuff, and whenever they want to prove it to the regulators, they can do it. But I think so this is a correct model as well. We don't want everyone to come to directly a public chain and stuff, because it was even difficult for me coming to a Web3 ecosystem from centralized exchange to decentralized exchanges, handling my wallet and everything. So it's very difficult. I think so, like initially you should start with like private chain, then hybrid, and then in future maybe it's about the public chain. Now coming to, this is also a point, like we get a lot of things where do we really require a lot of chains and everything, but it actually matters right now, because initially there were centralized servers where everyone was using similar, but right now you can create your own sequencers, you can create your own validator, a set system where you have the access, you have everything with them. So it's more private as well as decentralized. So I think so this can be a good reason how to convince the government with private chains and then maybe with privacy and zk, but it's hard to describe how zk works.
I think, yeah, I think it's privacy is a kind of had a bad rap. It's like, like it's in eyes of the regulator, it's kind of that like you're trying to hide something, right? It's not always good in the eyes of the regulator. But I think zero knowledge can kind of shift the thinking from, hiding data into owning data, right? It's about like individual, sovereignty, right? Your data is yours, and in order for that data to be, validated and active, being utilized in the community, you still have to kind of share that in a way, but you don't want to kind of reveal it, and that's zero knowledge is a great device and conduit to do that, and I think that would make it kind of better way to represent this shift of thinking in the eyes of regulator, instead of like you just want to hide something, right? It's individuality. It's about personal sovereignty and all that. So yeah, that might be related to personal rights and stuff. So yeah, I think it's zero knowledge will help that and kind of turn it's still, well, of course, it will still provide privacy preserving, properties that we all want, but it will shift the dialogue and the narrative.
I think that's an excellent point. I think for regulators, it's not about like hiding some anonymous person, right? It's about data, like consumer protection. It's making sure that people don't keep getting their data hacked or have to show their identity to every single person, where in the US they have social security numbers. Like if one of those places gets hacked, you basically lose your identity, your life, and it's really hard to recover that and cost tens of thousands. So I think like how we frame it to regulators can change massively. Also, companies need privacy, right?
Yeah, and also the elephant in the room is which is in the age of AI, right? AI agents, and they it's more important to kind of protect your own data or like community's data in a way. So I think zero knowledge is a great device can help the transition from from what we have or Web 2, Web 3, traditional use cases to AI agent dominated world, right?
So this panel is the future of zk, right? And I think the common applications everyone knows for zk is privacy through zero knowledge property, and then just succinctness, using that for rollups, right? What are other applications outside of zk? And I'm actually especially curious, maybe we can split that into two questions. Like, first, what are real world applications that won't use blockchain that will use zk? And then maybe as a second question, it's inside of blockchain, what are the sort of next big uses of zero knowledge proofs?
I can go. Come on. Okay. So I think so. The first and the foremost case where the first question is if they don't know about the blockchain, but they still use zk. So it will be IDs, zk IDs, which I think like can be the best thing. And even I'm bullish on that particular side because it's hard to get adoption. But say suppose if you get the adoption, so you have the largest user base across the world. So I've seen this adoption.
No privacy use cases. Other ones. I'm really curious of like no identity or privacy.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that the second most use case which we have seen, like you saw the recent announcement from CZ that he's a part of like Vana now as a advisor. So he is quite bullish on the data where you can actually monetize the data with the help of zk and stuff. So where you create data sets like data DAOs, which these data DAOs will secure your data with the help of like IDs, with the help of zks and stuff, and these people who are sharing their data will get the token of that particular DAO, and that DAO will get the token from the overall Vana ecosystem. So that's how like the monetization work over here. So this is a quite interesting idea where you mentioned about the privacy and stuff, but say suppose right now if someone pays me to share my data and I'm interested with that money, so I'm definitely happy to do that. So this is a good way where people will share their data, but they don't know that how the data is used. Maybe that data will be used for training the AI models. maybe that data is used to share the Web2 similar things like what Amazon and Google does with us.
Actually, I can share something, kind of in the same domain as you just mentioned. In our zk MIPS verticals, we have a AI agent framework called LazAI, where the data are actually, it's called point of view data, which is kind of anti-cloud, an anti-cloud paradigm, where all the data and computation is on the individual side, right? You create a boundary, and instead of you sending these data to a big data center owned by some giant corps, you do the compensate. They come to you to pay you to get results, by operating on your own data, where you don't share your data. And I think zero knowledge tech, zkVM, all this technology is great to create that boundary and enable this reversed kind of economy that individuals can earn data rights and payments, sort of the reverse kind of cloud computing kind of way. And this is very important in the age of AI, because we all know these big models already kind of scooped the last drop of data from the Earth, space of Earth, all the data generated. So in the future, the new data will be kind of in a privacy preserved way, that you're not going to share it with them anymore. They have their base model, which is already trained all the data that's generated by the human race, and then but further on, the uniqueness of your own agents are going to be trained on the data that's being protected, privacy preserved boundary of the individual.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm a little less convinced, mainly because privacy is hard. As an example, let's just take a look at browsers. In a browser, you expect that when you visit an individual website, no one's going to be able to learn about your browsing history. However, people have created ways to do so. Finding ways in order to make sure your data is private is hard, because so much data just leaks naturally in various ways, and companies have already become very good at figuring out how to scoop that up. So for example, again, with browsers, they have side channels that they can manipulate in order to learn about you as you visit different websites. They've got giant methods of collecting data already. And so, yeah, I mean, I certainly hope that at some point I'm going to be able to own my data, but at the same time, like, making data actually private is hard because information is so easy to leak. So for example, when we get private applications at Veridise, there's certain types of privacy leaks that you can find very easily. So that's, if you've got a public or a private input that's flowing to a public output. So you just have direct data flow that's leaking information. But this isn't the only way to leak information. It can be leaked through properties of the program you're running itself. So let's take my social security number. And then we'll look at a very classic way that passwords like 20 years ago were leaked, where essentially if someone wanted to check that I actually had that social security number, they were validating my social security number, and they were just iterating over the numbers within a loop, and then they cut off whenever it didn't match my social security number. That gives information. It's not explicitly giving information, but if I start timing that program, there's an implicit side channel, an information leak that can actually expose that private information. And so there's a lot of work that not only needs to go into protecting data inside of a ZK circuit and making it private, but also making sure that anyone who operates on that data is also operating on it in a privacy preserving way. And I think, yeah, I would love to own my data, but unless there's a broader effort to making it easier to create constant time programs, it's going to be really easy for someone to learn information about you by observing you over a long amount of time.
I'm going to flip that question around a little bit, because basically throughout human history, we never had a concept of verifiable computation, right? Like you had to re-execute the same transactions over and over again. Banks have to trust each other and send auditors periodically, hedge counterparty risk. I'm curious for like the succinct property of zk of like the privacy is the natural choice, but like what other applications have you guys seen or heard of that would use the verifiable computation for the real world applications?
I recently came across an application where the government, the US government, is potentially looking into using ZK, using zero knowledge proofs for their soundness properties in the following scenario. So I think, as far as I understood, the scenario is there is this nuclear waste, and there is certain data that one org in the U.S. government is logging, and there is another org that is consuming. Whenever when a typical template to see and understand is zk useful here or not is where you have flow of information across mutually distrusting parties, or not even mutually, across two parties where the recipient doesn't trust the sender, and there is this application where they're going to the sender collects this data, transforms it in a certain manner, and proves that it did it all in the right way, and sends the proof to the recipient. I thought that was a very interesting application, because whenever the government gets involved, the application is like huge. It's not small. The impact can be huge. They do things at a huge scale. The other, so there is this example which I'm a huge fan of, where it uses both the succinctness property and I think it's just the succinctness property. So this is proof of provenance of images and proof of integrity of these images. It can have there's beautiful work that Dan Bonet and his collaborators did in the past, where you can prove these things, and it can be useful in criminal justice, where somebody takes a picture of a crime scene, and why should that picture hold true in the court of law? Because you can use zero knowledge proofs and prove that this was taken on this camera, and the only transformation that was put on it was maybe I cut something on the side or something, but no other transformation. That's another amazing example.
From government stance, like which we were talking about, so even in India we have seen this, like Polygon is one of the best chain in India. Government use them, supports them a lot. So initially, like when I used to be ex-Polygon, so that time we were working with Telangana government, which is a state in India. So it was very simple verifiable proofs where any digital certificate is issued, and I'm talking about 2022. So any digital certificate can be verified by anyone. Government and colleges have their own front end to get all the data encrypted and decrypted from the proofs which are generated. So for example, if I scan your code, I'll get all the hash and stuff, which will be storing some data, which will be shown on the front end of the government. So that was one good use case. This was first and the foremost thing which I saw, and even I was not sure like which was done on chain. But apart from that, on the ZK specifically, so it's very far from all the users as well, I think so. It's not true that if we think like everyone is like quite focused or they are interested in ZK. So for example, if right now we talk about all the projects who are currently building in the ecosystem, if I ask them like you want to build with XYZ chain, or you want to build with OP, Validium, or ZK, so they will select the XYZ chain because they know the hype and everything can bring more traction rather than the technology. So I think so, even if the problem lies between the ecosystem, so it's very hard to blame the users that they don't really think about ZK technology and stuff, because it's not actually a great way to portray how the technology works.
Yeah, I think the problem with the blockchain crypto space is that it's too fragmented, and so it's difficult to convince the governments and all that to kind of see this or treat us as a infrastructure, right? It's and also all the uh, different strengths of consensus and security is also like a headache, right? But I think the whatever we developed over the couple years for Ethereum, there's a scalability solutions based on zk rollup, has the potential to grow to kind of build a universal solution of web computing where you kind of could separate the compute on the intense compute that will definitely grow like infinitely, from the limited capacity of consensus, because consensus is slow because it takes time for people to reach consensus. There's a limit, so you can't build your monolithic like a chain or whatever. Like you can't have your chain reach like infinite capacity and just the performance of a data center, right? You can never do that. You can never have that. So I think this technology we developed, so succinctness instead of like just privacy, but I think succinctness, this variable computing can kind of unify the whole space, and then you can have database performance for your apps, and then you can also have consensus. Yeah, I think this is the important thing to just to conclude what we have done in the past 5 years in the space of zero knowledge technologies.
I think I heard this saying many years ago, and I like it, where it's like linear thinking is really easy. That's how our brains are programmed. So when the internet came out, you thought, hey, I'll make a digital newspaper. The abstract thought of, oh shit, social media is going to steal all of our business is the harder leap to do. So I think for like a lot of these real world applications, I think a lot of it will unfold. We'll see where zk goes. I think we'll have a huge impact with zk on the real world, way beyond what people think. Also in normal, just like applications. This is part of why we're pushing actually now at Off-Chain Labs for a lot of application level zk and native rollups. We have 1 minute left here, so I guess the closing question is: we're running out of super hyper mega words. What's the next proof system called? Ultra? What about after Ultra?
Ultramax.
Ooh, there we go. We can start compounding it.
I don't know. I think I already saw Hyper Ultra, which seems like it might go.
I was joking about that. I can't believe that's real.
I don't know. I think that they're just going to move on to something else. They can't get above, or it's just going to get extremely long.
And then anyone have any closing thoughts, or if you want to pitch your project for people to come talk to you, where should they contact you? How should they approach you?
I think closing thought on the topic of future of zk is that to your initial very first question, Daniel, when I was a PhD kid, I didn't foresee I could work on zk, and when Zcash was there, we couldn't foresee this level of zk adoption. 2 years ago, we couldn't foresee so much adoption, even to an extent that you want to prove the entire consensus and use zero-knowledge proofs for consensus, which again is an amazing example of utilization of zero-knowledge proofs. And I think this will hold true. To your point on linear thinking, I don't think we can even foresee the level of adoption, the level of impact zk can have, just because of the fact that zk is just extremely powerful and value additive. About our project, Fermah is a universal proof market, and we think that there are two places where hurdles can happen, which is adoption and then ongoing hurdles. Adoption hurdles is taken down through zkVMs and better DSLs. Ongoing hurdles of proof generation cost and time is taken down through efficient proving services, and that's exactly what we're building at Fermah.
Got it. So from my side, so as I mentioned, like we are the first and the largest modular L2, but we were also the first one who launched like public mainnet with the privacy network, but then we somehow shifted to ZK. But recently, like for now, the major focus is on the fast finality and stuff side. So we are trying to cater the technology of Bitcoin ecosystem to bring it on EVM so that we can secure the EVM space with the help of Bitcoin and native Bitcoin. So if you guys are up, like you can just hit to main account as well, and I can just reach back to you.
Yeah, I always think the zero knowledge proof technologies that we're developing, the zkMIPS, and by and large, all the zkVMs out there, is to build the last bastion of defense for our individual rights. Think in this big AI agents era, that I think the domains of individuals kind of shrinking, and it seems like we're kind of losing to the big corps, the big compute data centers that they can own because they're so expensive. But I think and the economic rights of people are taken away by AI. But I think the technologies we all built here, and ours included, can be that defense, can be that boundary that you can create. Say, okay, AI, stay there. Right? There's still money to be made, the jobs to be had. That it will utilize the true decentralization, censorship, all that resistant ideology that when we first create these blockchain projects. So yeah, I think zero knowledge technologies will be the last stand to the power of AI and those powers that could harm us.
Yeah, I'll keep this relatively short. The future of ZK is bright, but doing ZK is hard. Like, it's gotten a lot easier recently with zkVMs, which is great, but there are still, pitfalls. And then if you're writing your own ZK circuit, also pitfalls. And so it's important that you understand exactly what can happen, the types of bugs that can be introduced. And so people should definitely explore, making many types of applications involving ZK, including privacy applications, even though they're hard, because we need all of these types of solutions. Just make sure they're safe. And, if you're looking for security solutions, you can obviously come to us. But I think the thing that's very important is make sure that, people who are looking at your circuits or looking at your applications are also using tools, because people can reason about code, but tools can reason more precisely about code. And especially for ZK circuits, it is critical that they are right.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. It was a great panel. Hopefully we can see some of this unfold in 2025. And you get a lot of audits too. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.